Welcome. Today's topic is very exciting, fascinating. It's called the Inner Kingdom. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it and your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Brahmachari Yogananda. Most people imagine that the inner kingdom, as Jesus described it, lacks the fascination they attribute to sense life, the bright lights, the diverse attractions, the joys and the laughter. Little do they realize what a vast universe exists in their own selves. There are many passages in the Old and New Testaments of the Bible that describe aspects of this inner kingdom. In the book of Genesis we read, "And the Lord God planted a garden eastward in Eden, and the tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. This garden was in no earthly place. It exists even now, in the very self of every human being." The legend of Adam and Eve is allegorical. It describes how the first human beings dissipated their spiritual energy, centered in the spine. The spine is the channel through which flows the river of baptism and of spiritual life. The Bhagavad Gita tells us, "The wise speak of an eternal Ashvata tree, with its roots above and its branches below." The tree of life, spoken of also in Genesis, is the spine. Its roots are above in the brain's energy. Its branches are the outward spreading nervous system. When the sap, which is to say, the energy, flows downward, the consciousness is drawn into delusion. On the other hand, when the energy is drawn upward in deep meditation, the consciousness is drawn towards its eternal source, God, and is at last united with Him. Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita therefore urges his chief disciple Arjuna to embrace the yoga science, the path of meditation. The yogi, he says, is greater than the ascetic, greater even than the followers of the paths of wisdom. That means Jnana Yoga, or of action, Karma Yoga. Be thou, O Arjuna, a yogi. For those who would find the divine truth, Krishna gives this description of the yogi. Steadfast a lamp burns, sheltered from the wind, steadfastly meditating, solitary. Such is the likeness of a yogi's mind, shut from sense storms and burning bright to heaven. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. These last lines from the translation by Sir Edward Arnold are absolutely beautiful. And it seems sometimes that there's no way that we're going to get our mind to be like a lamp that burns sheltered from the wind, just going so steadily and just one-pointedly focused on God alone. Sometimes it seems so difficult, but Krishna tells Arjuna that the yogi is greater than the ascetic, or greater than these other paths, because yoga, it works, that it is the highest science. It absolutely is the greatest thing ever given to mankind. It's, a story's in my mind right now of little Brenda, who was a disciple of Brahmachari. And he practiced the first Kriya. This story's in the autobiography of the yogi. And there was another man in the ashram of Brahmachari. And he came to Brahmachari and said, "I want the higher Kriyas. Give me the higher Kriyas." And Brahmachari said, "Oh, wait a second. Oh, little Brenda. Come here, Brenda. Do you want the higher Kriyas? Do you want more initiations?" And little Brenda said, Please, sir, no more initiations. I'm already so intoxicated by the first Kriya that I can hardly do my duties." That he was a postman. He said, "I can hardly deliver my letters, and I'm so intoxicated with the bliss of God. And we need to learn how to become a spiritual alcoholic, drunk all the time with the intoxicating wine of God's love. And if you learn how to drink this wine, it makes the wine of the world look like nothing. It makes all of the sense pleasures, everything that we think that we just can't live without, that we just have to have, it makes it look absolutely like nothing, nothing. So be a yogi, learn Kriya Yoga. It's just the most absolutely wonderful thing. But if you've never tasted an orange, I couldn't tell you what an orange tasted like. I could just tell you it's wonderful. But I tried to do everything I could to try to urge you to come taste this orange. Anyways, we're going to get into Kriya, but I want to take this discussion from about the inner kingdom. I want to take it from the top down. And from the top down, we're going to talk about the causal world, or the Christ consciousness. But I played this chant for a reason. We're going to just dive into it for a second here. And my mind and my heart, they work in a particular way where I need to chant it and explain it at the same time. So we have My Krishna is blue, my Krishna is blue, the Tamil tree is blue. My Krishna is blue, the Tamil tree is blue. So Master wrote this chant, and he's talking not that Krishna has blue skin, but right away, my Krishna is blue. He's referring to the light seen at the spiritual eye when we achieve Christ consciousness, or when we can penetrate into the causal world. And so he's saying, my Krishna is blue, the Tamil tree is blue. And so the Tamil tree in this chant is referring to this state of consciousness, of Christ consciousness. So let's go further into this. My Krishna is blue, the Tamil tree is blue. My Krishna is blue, the Tamil tree is blue. So I do love the Tamil tree. So just the words, so I do love thee, it makes me feel that this state, it's yours, it's mine. It's not just for Krishna or Christ. And so I do love thee, that when we're supposed to worship God with all our heart, all our mind, all our soul, all our strength, that it means that we need to worship this, not Christ the man. You can do that too. It's fine to have an image on your altar. But we need to worship that consciousness, and we need to learn to love that consciousness with all of our entire being. And when we love that consciousness, we'll go into states of absolute ecstasy. So I do love thee, my Tamil tree. And maybe I can get it without chanting it. And when I die, O mother, do put me high on a branch of the Tamil tree. Now, if you weren't a yogi, you just wouldn't know what this meant. You might go off somewhere searching in India for this Tamil tree, which I'm joking about, but I'm probably going to do that in a few weeks. I've been told that this tree does exist in Vrindavan, but that's the outward symbol. But inwardly, we want to go into this tree. And so, when we die, now, in Savikalpa Samadhi, that will go breathless, and the physical body, it does look dead. But if that scares you, you could just think of it as when our bad tendencies die as we ascend towards heaven, or when our ego consciousness dies, when we offer ourselves to God. And when that happens, then we're asking God, do put me high on a branch of the Tamil tree. And so this means that even there's different levels of Christ consciousness, that there's different levels of saints. And we want, when we die, to go to the highest level possible. And this is a very interesting thing, because yes, it means when we die at the end of this incarnation, maybe we'll be 90 years old or whatever the case may be, and on that day, it's going to be very important of how we've lived every day of our life in order that all adds up, and we're trying to merge all our energy back into this and get onto a high branch of the Tamil tree. In a very simple explanation, that it would mean that we want to achieve a high state of heaven. But there are different levels of heaven, and we do want to understand those. So that's at the end of your life when you die. But you want to learn how to make death an old friend when that day comes, because you've already approached it, because you're a true yogi, and you've learned how to sit perfectly still, and you've learned what death is like even while living. And that again is going to happen when we can go into these higher states of consciousness. So do put me high on a branch of the Tamil tree. Where Krishna sat, there I would die on a branch of the Tamil tree. I believe that's the whole chant. But so let's learn how to love Krishna on the inside. And so, I think I can put down the harmonium now, that I was able to think with my heart there a little bit, and with the chant. So, that's from the highest level, from the causal plane. And that's good, but we're living in Dwapara Yuga just at the beginning of it. We're trying to gain a Dwapara understanding. We're trying to make heads or tails. We're trying to make sense of what does it mean when the masters say the kingdom of heaven is within. And why is it that Paramahansa Yogananda said that every chakra represents a planet, and that here represents the sun, that here represents the galactic center, that if you go within, that you see that there's an entire universe within you. You see that you can see it at any level you want. If you want to see a solar system within you, fine. If you want to see the entire universe within you, fine. And we need to talk this through because we need to try to gain this understanding a little bit intellectually, but mainly we will gain this understanding in meditation and in the peace of our own soul. And so, let's start with this, that God is center everywhere, circumference nowhere. That means that He's centered in every single atom. Now, what are you going to do with that? I mean, there's a countless number of atoms out there, and how could we get to know every single little atom? And the way is by understanding that we too are the atom, and that really there only is one atom. And so we have to get to know ourselves. And now, sometimes people think, how is it that God could know every thought that I think, and know every thought that He thinks, and know every thought that He thinks, and take a personal interest in my life, and His life, and His life, and His life? And at the same time, how could God be running galaxies and be omnipresent in many solar systems and whatever, planets, and many beings all over the place? And the trick is that God is seeing it all from one center, and then it branches out. And so our job is to learn how to go within to that one center. And so the universe, the entire universe, it literally is within you once this understanding of Dwapara consciousness dawns within you. But the highest thing it dawns when you have that experience on the inside through meditation. So too much study of the scriptures really is useless. That really we need to do the work, that we have to learn to pierce into these kingdoms within. That Christ said that my Father's house, I think, or the kingdom of heaven, something like that, my Father's house has many mansions. And He was saying that there's many levels to the kingdom of heaven. But I've said this before in past lectures or webinars or whatever these are, that where is the kingdom of heaven? It's right there within you, right here, right now. The right now side of it is the causal side, where we start transcending time. But the right here is the astral side, understanding that the astral world is right here. That the loved ones, when they disappear at death, that you think they've gone so far away, they haven't. There's just a little curtain, a little veil that's there between your consciousness and the astral consciousness. And you can learn to penetrate that in meditation. And so there's no need to feel sad if someone passes away. They're all just right here, right now. It's really fascinating when we start understanding that everything's right here, right now, and that it's our job just to send peace, love, and light to all souls in the entire creation. You know, it's fascinating when we start to realize who we truly are. But Master said it's safer to have an I and thou relationship. That it's safer to have a guru, to see God in an image, in a form, in the body of Krishna. Because as we start realizing that God is within us, that it can become very tempting to want to say the words, I am God. And it's true, you are, but you can't say it, and you can never say it, because at the same time, you're nothing. You're absolutely nothing. And all of the saints are quite content to be absolutely nothing. And I like the way Ananda Ma put it, because now if you're struggling, well, am I everything? Am I the entire universe, or am I nothing? Then Ananda Ma said, God is, and He isn't, neither is he nor isn't he. And that we will put this whole puzzle together in perfect silence, in perfect stillness in the inside, through the practice of Kriya Yoga. And so when we gain this understanding of what our physical body really is, how all the cells work, how they're interrelated with our astral body, how our astral body is interrelated with the astral heavens, and how all of the causal planes, the microcosm, which is to say yourself, and the macrocosm, how those are all interrelated, then we have the keys to the kingdom that Christ said that he would give. I think it was Christ. I'm a little fuzzy sometimes on the Christian Bible, but I think Christ said to St. Peter, I'm giving you the keys to the kingdom of heaven. And those keys are the keys of understanding. But here's the beautiful part where Eastern spirituality enters in. That Kriya Yoga is the practical application of the keys to the kingdom. So we can read the scriptures all day long about the microcosm and the macrocosm. But when we start moving that current up and down, and when we start gaining that astral awareness, and when we start even gaining the higher awareness of the Christ consciousness, then we really know what the keys to the kingdom are all about. And so we need to practice our Kriya, and we need to get this understood. Now, in the reading that we had today, that it's nice that in the Bhagavad Gita, there's the talk of the Ashvata tree, or the people tree, which is such a beautiful and sacred tree. In Latin, it's called, I think, Vigosa religiosa, or something like that, which is like the spiritual fig tree. And there is something sacred to that tree, but I don't want to go into all that. I want to go into the inner tree, and the fact that it exists in the Bhagavad Gita, and it exists in Genesis, in the Christian Bible, but we can't understand that tree. I mean, you could cut apart cadavers all day long, saying the scriptures say there's this tree inside, and look for it, and you'd have no understanding whatsoever. But when you understand that this tree is a tree of energy, and more than that, when you begin to get sensitive enough through the practice of Kriya Yoga that you can feel energy, now you're happening spiritually. Because then you can begin to feel energy withdrawing back into the trunk of the tree. Or, when you wish, you can put energy out and make love and peace and joy and whatever work needs to get done in this world, make it go out. And you have to do both in this world. That somehow it's not enough, even as we're advanced yogis, just to be able to completely withdraw within. That then we need to give that outwardly also to this entire universe. So we've been through this probably many times, but the trunk is the spine, and the branches are our nervous system. The fruits, this is an important philosophical point to understand. The fruits are the five senses of what we enjoy in the five senses, and our hair is the roots of the tree. But when we enjoy the five senses, we're trying to bring that energy back within. And this topic today talks about a little bit, it hints at it, of controlling sexual energy, which is very important. And while we're on this talk, that in Genesis, it says, go ahead, enjoy all of the senses, 4 of them, but do not enjoy the physical sensation of touch. For that one is the serpent, and it's very guilesome, I forget. Luckily, the Christian Bible has been translated so many times that whatever little mistakes I make here, they won't be too obvious. But it's that physical sense of touch that this is the most difficult sense to control. That you'll feel it even in meditation, that you'll feel that your knee hurts, or that you just have this scratch, or that it's hot, or that it's cold. And you can put in earplugs to shut off the physical sounds, but controlling that sense of touch, it is very difficult. And here, I'll put this all together for us. Because who you truly are is omnipresent in all of the physical creation, that when you get to understand the sense of touch and how it's omnipresent in your physical body, you'll understand that your physical body is the microcosm of the macrocosm of the physical universe. And so it is very difficult to learn to withdraw that physical sense of touch from the entire body and bring it back into the tree of life. But as you can do that, then you gain your omnipresence and you can feel, using that sense of feeling, you can feel yourself in all of the physical creation. Now, when it's put that way, I mean, what kind of choice is it? Would you rather have the physical sensation of touch, or would you rather have omnipresence in all of the creation? Okay, obviously everyone would choose the omnipresence in all creation, but then we get into the reality of it. It's not easy. That for many incarnations we've been going into the senses, down and out, thinking that we're going to find pleasure in this physical world. And once we gain understanding, we did understand that our train or our car or whatever has been driving in the wrong direction for many incarnations, and now it's time to turn around. Okay, it is a little bit difficult, but it can be done. And specifically, it can be done using Kriya Yoga. That Kriya Yoga creates a magnet that pulls your energy within. And really, it's really a very simple thing, Kriya Yoga. That you go up and down the spine with proper understanding, with your energy, but it's not that easy. You have to build your nervous system, and that takes years of concentrated effort and of attuning yourself to the Guru and using his grace to do that. So you do have to build your nervous system so that it can accommodate the 1 billion watts of power that's required to withdraw your energy back within. But those 1 billion watts aren't required in the beginning. Even a little bit of this practice will free you from dire fears and colossal suffering. That even as you start to move a little bit of energy and you start to feel a little bit of joy in the spine on the inside, you'll say, I want more of that. I want to become a spiritual alcoholic. That's the real wine. And that's the stuff that's really going to make me happy. That's the joy that has no opposite, that has no downward corresponding trough in the waves of our life the next day. So learn to practice Kriya Yoga. Learn to practice Kriya Yoga deeply. And this is another important point that I just was touching on. Learn to do Kriya with the Guru's grace. That in the poem Samadhi, there's a line, by longer, deeper, thirsty, Guru-given meditation comes the celestial Samadhi. Do you know how important that line is? That yes, you have to do it, but in the end you're not doing it. He's doing it through you. And that we have to open ourselves up to his grace. And that he will energize our Kriya practice. That he will show us all the fine little details on how we can achieve the highest states that even the gods themselves yearn to attain if we do our Kriya with God's grace, if we do our Kriya with attunement. So have devotion, get devotion. It's the most important thing. That you start cultivating that devotion, you start feeling it, and you realize that's what makes you feel good. You know, this morning I was meditating. Somewhere in there, I was just wondering, what is this all about? What's the most important thing? And I was feeling so much, I can't even put a word on it, love, peace, joy. I don't know, feeling so much, one of those, something of God's aspect. I was saying, it's this feeling. This is the most important thing, this feeling. And I need to hold on to this feeling. Even when I come out of meditation and do whatever I have to do, these duties in the world. But it's this feeling. And God is consciousness. And consciousness is much closer to feeling. And as we do Kriya Yoga, we become more and more sensitive day by day. You know, don't be afraid of Kriya. Kriya is self-correcting. That even if you can't feel anything, you think I'm just a lunatic here talking about all these deep sensitive feelings and feeling energy. Even if you can't feel any of that, even if you just somehow know you want a better relationship with God, and that you want to practice a little bit of Kriya Yoga, and all you can do is be aware of your physical breath, that's perfectly fine. That's exactly where I started. And then you keep practicing this Kriya, and Kriya, it refines you, and it turns you into a dull human, or from a dull human being that knows nothing but the 5 senses. And it takes you, and Kriya will take you all the way back to oneness with God, all the way home. It's the most amazing thing I've ever... I long so deeply to give you the experiences, but you will have to do the work. And you will do it, and it will be a great joy. So, let's get back to the Shashvata tree. And so, in the book of Genesis again, it says that the Lord God planted a garden eastward in Eden, and the tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And so, you're never going to find this tree until you learn where to look. And it tells you right here where to look. And that is, look eastward. So that means you have to learn to look for this tree. You have to understand this tree by going in meditation and searching for it from there. But then here's the important part, that the tree of life in the midst of the garden. And so when you withdraw from the five senses, when we learn how to become more and more celibate and ultimately perfectly celibate, then that turns into the tree of life on the inside. But when we're down and out in the five senses, then the only tree we know is the tree of duality. And that's the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And it's Pandora's box. Once that box gets open, once that knowledge gets open, then it's very difficult to go back and get rid of that past knowledge of the enjoyment of the five senses. But it certainly can be done. It easily can be done with Kriya Yoga. And so, ultimately, that this is telling us how to transcend all duality. And in transcending all duality, we transcend the idea that we are this little egoic self. The idea that I'm trying to put in here and tie it all together is that Master said that yoga teaches you how to become the atom. But Master also said that Om is the sound of the tension between the negative particles, that means the electrons, and the positive particles, and that means the neutron and the proton in the atom. So Om is the difference in vibration between those particles. But it is Om, it is going within, that brings that duality back together. And this also becomes an interesting point when Master said to Swami Kriyananda, what is it that keeps the earth from shooting out into space? And Swamiji said, it's the sun's gravitational pull. And the Master says, and what is it that keeps the sun from coming in and the earth crashing into the sun? And he said, it's the centrifugal force by the earth's rotation. And then Master just said, okay. Swami was confused. What in the heck? Why did the Master want a lesson on astrophysics? But then Swami in meditation, in deep, deep understanding, he came to understand what that was all about. And so I'm running out of time. You're going to have to meditate on these things. You're going to have to come to an understanding that this is really just all a dream. And you're going to have to understand how the electrons, how they project this entire movie and how it's projected out from your own consciousness and how to go within. But you're going to do that because it's your destiny. And why waste time? You can try to enjoy the dream as much as you want, but in the end, the only thing you're ever going to enjoy is God's love and God's bliss, which is within you. So go. Seek there. Seek within yourself, in the silence, in the stillness of your own self, and find God's bliss in there. And you'll find that it's been yours and it always will be yours.